Dr. John Demartini is a world-renowned specialist in human behavior, a researcher, author, and global educator. He has studied over 30,000 books across all the defined academic disciplines and has synthesized the wisdom of the ages, which he shares on stage in over 150 countries. Dr. Demartini has addressed public and professional audiences of thousands of people across the globe and shared the stage with some of the world's most influential people such as Sir Richard Branson, Stephen Covey, Steve Wozniak, Robert Kiyosaki, Tony Fernandez, Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Donald Trump, and many more. Dr. Demartini is the author of over 50 self-development books and manuscripts such as the acclaimed The Breakthrough Experience, which has been translated into over 36 languages. He has produced over 70 CDs and DVDs covering subjects from relationships, finance, education, business, leadership, and health. Dr. Demartini has traveled to over 151 countries, presented in over 50 countries. His life-transforming methodologies and teachings has appeared in over 1,000 leading magazines and newspapers. Globally, he has been featured on over 5,000 radio and television talk shows. He has been featured in 35 national and international film documentaries and movies, including The Secret. He has impacted billions of people globally with his work. Let's welcome Dr. John Demartini.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's afternoon, I guess, there, huh?
It's evening here. It's morning there, right?
Yes.
How are you?
I'm doing great.
It's so good to see you. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you.
I've been following you for like a couple of years. Is it okay if I just share a little bit about myself before we begin so that we can have a better understanding and then we can continue, right? So, Doctor, my name is Iffat. I'm born in India. I did have, a couple of challenges I faced when I was growing up as a kid. Didn't really want it, not much interested into studies, similar kind of to you. You did have your challenges, but for me it was like different. I was much more into business at that young age. When I was 6 years old, I started kind of, I did my first business, so to say. And since then my journey began. I got stuck in corporate, and then it so happened that I could not come out of it. When I tried to come out of it, it was a disaster. And after which, I started my company. I faced a lot of challenges in there. And then finally, I made the money. I helped people making money. But then I figured out that that's not what my calling is like, and that's not what exactly I am meant to do. And so the entire thing changed. And today, this is what I do. For the past about more than 5 years, it's been that I've been into learning and I've been helping people. I've been coaching entrepreneurs. I've been working with them. So it's been an amazing journey. And I've had the privilege and honor to have amazing people on my show to be able to share their insights. And I am so honored to have you. First of all, thank you so much for joining in.
Thank you. Thank you. Sounds like a great, inspiring journey.
Thank you so much. And you're right. So let's go ahead and get this thing started. First of all, I've got a couple of questions to ask you, but I have been quite inspired by your journey. Before we begin, I'd like you to share a little bit of your journey so the people can just get to know you a little better, my audience especially.
Well, in a nutshell, I was challenged as a child with learning. I ended up leaving school at a young age. I loved a sport called surfing.
That's amazing.
I left Texas and hitchhiked to California, into Mexico, and eventually I made my way to Hawaii to surf.
Mm-hmm.
I nearly died there. And in the recovery process, I went to a little class where an inspiring man was presenting an evening talk that inspired me to believe that I could do more with my life than what I thought.
Wow.
And in one night, that one man with his message inspired me to believe that I could overcome my learning problems and someday become intelligent. And I wanted to be a teacher.
Amazing.
And after that night, I was so inspired to do that, and many obstacles along the way. 47, almost 48 years later, here I am.
Wow. Wow.
So today I've been blessed to travel to 154 countries speaking.
Mm-hmm.
And we've reached billions of people. And it's amazing what, if you have a focus and you stay with it and you don't give up, you can do more than you may first think.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I appreciate the opportunity to share again today, because that's been my dream since I was 17.
Amazing. Amazing. And you've been doing such amazing work, Doctor. What is that keeps you going? What is that drive? What's your drive like? What keeps you going?
Ever since that night I met the gentleman and I had learning problems, I didn't think I would ever be able to read. I didn't read till I was 18.
Wow.
And I discovered that I could, with the help of a dictionary and the help of my mom, testing me on 30 words a day until my vocabulary was strong enough to be able to read. I just had a thirst for knowing and learning and sharing whatever I learned on how to help people do extraordinary things in life, how to expand their awareness, potential, and evolve themselves and expand themselves to do something extraordinary with their life. I believe that there's a magnificence in the universe, and we're part of it, and we're here to contribute something magnificent into the universe. And I can't think of anything else I'd rather be doing. That's what I do every day. I don't have anything that distracts me, because that's what I love doing.
Amazing. And when talking about distractions, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. I work with a lot of startups, and understanding their journey and knowing their journey and their challenges kind of made me take up my journey. You know, I left my businesses, which I was building with products, and I took up to teaching and coaching, and I took that journey up because I saw a lot of women especially facing challenges. So my heart went into that. I was like, I've got to do something for them. But it's so amazing, you know, when you talk about distraction, I find a lot of entrepreneurs, I find a lot of startups especially going through this phase. Now, when setting up a business, when starting a business, the first, you know, the most important challenge they face is how do you go about starting? Now, you had your why, you had your challenges in your life, which you overcame beautifully. I had my part of the journey. But how is that we can actually make somebody go ahead and make that start? Like what makes them do something which they've been wanting to do forever?
Well, many entrepreneurs, not all, but many, have an idea in their mind of what they want to do without really checking to make sure that the world wants it.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's no demand, it's hard to sell a supply.
Absolutely.
So you want to make sure that you're sincerely caring enough about humanity to find out what humanity is searching for.
Mm-hmm.
Then you want to care enough about yourself to find out what is deeply meaningful and inspiring to yourself, and find out where they overlap.
Okay.
If you do, you'll have a demand, and you can't wait to bring that supply to them.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 27, and I just opened up my practice, even though I'd been speaking and things before, I came across a book at a Walden's bookstore called The Time Trap.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I could share with you or share with the group something that really did make a difference in my business. Maybe
Absolutely.
They could write these down and be helpful.
Would love to do that. Absolutely.
I read this book and summarized this book. And then what I did is I got a blank piece of paper out,
mm-hmm.
and I put 5 lines in it
mm-hmm.
to make 6 columns.
Mm-hmm.
And the first left column, I wrote down every single thing that I was doing in my day.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I was doing in my day, or potentially could do over a period of a few months, that would be essential for my business.
Mm-hmm.
and also everything I was doing even at home, privately.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I want to make a list of all the things I was actually doing in my 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thorough, and I didn't do vague generalities. I did specific actions. I didn't say marketing, sales. I said specifically making these calls, looking this up, reading stats.
Yeah.
And I made that exhaustive list. I think it was about 139 things.
Wow. In a day?
Yeah, little things that I was doing throughout the day that I was not even aware of.
Wow.
And as I made that list, I was already starting to see that I was majoring in minors and minoring in majors.
Beautiful. I love that.
In the second column, I wrote down how much does each of those actions actually produce in dollars per hour.
Results.
And that's how much service it's actually going, because people will pay you if they feel they're getting values met.
Yes.
I put a dollar value there. And I found out that some things were $1,200 an hour, some were $600, some were $200 an hour, some were zero. And I put it what I believed it. So if I spent 2 hours on it, I divide by 1. If I spent 10 minutes with it, I multiply it times 6. And I get an idea of what it actually produced.
Uh-huh.
And that I had to extrapolate and do my best thinking.
Mm-hmm.
When I looked at that, I went, wow, I am definitely doing things that aren't producing a lot of time. And so I reprioritized that entire list according to what produced the most, second most, and third most down the list.
Uh-huh.
The one that produced the most is getting out and sharing a message and upselling and engaging people into coming into my service,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't expect because I was a professional and I assumed that doctoring was going to be it. I then, in the next column, I wrote down how much meaning on a 1 to 10 scale does each of those actions mean?
Uh-huh.
Because sometimes I would sacrifice something that was deeply meaningful for something that produced.
True. Most of us do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I found myself, if I would go to speak to 2,000 kids at a high school and speak to them and inspire them and try to help them in their career,
Mm-hmm.
even if they don't pay me a lot,
Mm-hmm.
that means something. And so I would juggle that and make sure that could happen. So I made a list of all the meaning
Mm-hmm.
because I wanted to find out what was the highest priority in meaning, highest priority in productivity, and try to find the things that were most meaningful and productive. And I reprioritized that list.
Mm-hmm.
And I found that many of them that were productive were also meaningful. So that was great.
Amazing.
The next column I put down, what exactly does it produce per, how much would it cost to delegate that action to somebody that is comparable in standard? Or if I delegated to somebody and hired somebody to do that, and it was the same exact standard as I would do or more,
Mm-hmm.
what would it cost me? Every detail, not their salary cost, but space utilization costs, insurance costs, parking costs, bonus costs, every cost.
Every little thing.
Paperclip, computer,
Yeah.
depreciables, everything. And then I wrote that list down to the best of my ability. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure I was just estimating conservatively on something.
Uh-huh.
And then I looked for what was the biggest spreads between what's produced versus what cost.
Okay.
And I reprioritized that list.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then on the next column, I wrote down how much time do I actually spend on these things. So I
Wow.
looked at my day, really honest at my day over a period of 3 months. Where's my energy going?
Mm-hmm.
And in the following column, I prioritized all of that information into a layer of prioritizations of what things I wanted to delegate first, second, third, and of course the thing that was least and last delegated
Mm-hmm.
was going to be the thing that I did most, that I was inspired by most, that produced the most.
Mm-hmm.
And once I did, I then delegated and knocked out a layer, and I would hire sometimes 1, 2, or 3 people to finally get the right person for it.
Mm-hmm.
But I would eventually release that and then release the next layer. And I divided into 10 layers, all the things. And slowly but surely over an 18-month period, I delegated everything
Wow.
except what I did best, that produced the most, and had the biggest spread.
Amazing.
When I did that, my business went up tenfold in 18 months. Tenfold.
That's the power of focusing on what you're best at.
Yeah, you got to find out what your core competency is, what's most inspiring, what you're greatest at. Find that one thing, as Gary Keller says, that makes you stand out and become the greatest leader of what you do. If an individual do that and care enough about making sure that they're not just filling their day with things that don't produce results for people, and make sure that the things they do actually serve their clients, and meet the needs of clients where they want to buy it. There's the demand for it. If there's no demand, you're not meeting the needs.
Absolutely.
You're going to spend a lot of time, money trying to market and all that, but you got to make sure you hit what they're wanting because there's a demand there. If you get that and you put that list together, there's no way you're not going to grow forward more efficiently. And then if you find yourself having difficulty doing an action, what you do is you ask how specifically is doing this action helping you fulfill what's most meaningful to you, and link in the brain, links neuroplastically so you're now see it on the way, not in the way. Or delegate. Either go do what you love through delegating or go love what you do through linking.
Okay.
Those two sensory control and motor control systems of priority can make a huge difference in the willingness to just take action.
Amazing.
Then what if you're already in a job right now and you have a secure job and it's a big jump, you're not going to make the jump unless you perceive that there's going to be more advantages and disadvantages.
Absolutely, I get that. Yeah.
Particularly if you have family. So it's wise to take what you're doing now and take the job description you have now and the clear vision of what you want to do as an entrepreneur and ask, how is doing this temporarily until you can release it? How's it helping you get to the next step? So you're not drained and frustrated doing this, so you can make that transition more smoothly.
Amazing.
And then by doing that and asking how is it going to help you, you may find all of a sudden resources, opportunities, clients, people, everything else that helps you in the next job.
Amazing.
But by seeing things on the way, not in the way, you'll expedite the transition into the entrepreneurship.
Wow.
But once you do that, you want to make sure you take a portion of whatever you earn, no matter how much you earn, and put it towards investments, asset building. Don't put all your money back in the business. Put some of it back in the business, but some of it into assets to build up liquid cushions. A conservative base of liquid capital makes you more stable, more strategic, less volatility distracted, and it draws money because money goes where money goes.
Absolutely.
And so if you actually take a portion of it and set it aside and invest in your stability, the cash reserves draw opportunity to you.
Amazing.
So don't just live on empty all the time. Build up a cash reserve so you're not emotional, because emotions destroy business, and objective strategies build it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. That was amazing. And I'm quite sure viewers are going to enjoy that. They're going to learn so much, and I hope they implement, because that's where the key is. They got to take action. They got to implement all of this, and that's where they're going to get results. In fact, I remember I personally have done this experiment. I personally have done this. I got a journal. So even for my students, I go about telling them, make sure you get a journal for yourself and write what you're doing every day, just so that you are aware about this, aware about every activity you're doing, what's your income producing activities, where are you actually making money, and where you're just spending time, and which is not giving you much of a result. And that is such brilliantly put. Thank you so much, Doctor, for that one. All right, so we're going to talk a lot about today on emotions and business. Like you said, emotions destroy business, and I am so curious to understand more about that. So I've heard people saying, in fact, I personally have implemented this, to be very honest with you. When I work, I'm like just right there, so focused. I wouldn't really think about anything. So distractions is not a word, doesn't stand, doesn't have a place. I just go out there and I just do my work. So I don't feel emotions at that time. And sometimes I can come across really brutal, really hard on people, but then I get that, I understand that. On the contrary, there are, people who say that, they don't feel the emotions, but there are startups, there are individuals who feel a lot of emotions. So do you think it's emotions, having emotions, it's detrimental to your business, or is it okay if you have a balance? I remember reading something about you, when you spoke about being an inspired individual and actually being in a state of gratitude and love. So when you are in a state of gratitude and love, can you work on your business when you are at that state, or do you actually just have to be so focused? How exactly does this work?
Okay.
Around? Yeah.
Let me make a distinction between feelings that are synthesized and feelings that are polarized.
Okay.
They're distinctions. Emotions are polarized feelings. And what I mean by polarized feelings are let's say you infatuate with somebody. You're conscious of the upsides, you're unconscious of the downsides. And if you resent something, you're unconscious of the upsides and you're conscious of the downsides. Anytime you're splitting your full consciousness into conscious and unconscious halves, you have a polarized emotion. And you're blind to one half. You're ignoring one half. So you're being subjectively biased and you're only seeing one half. And you don't make the wisest decisions when you're in seeing only one half. You're biased.
Absolutely.
Then there's synthesized feelings. When you see both sides objectively, not subjectively with bias, but objectively.
Right.
When you do, that is a different feeling. That brings gratitude, love, inspiration, enthusiasm, certainty, and presence. Let me give you an example. If I went up to somebody and I said, you're always kind, you're never cruel. You're always nice, you're never mean. You're always positive, never negative. Always peaceful, never wrathful. Always giving, never taking. Always generous, never stingy. Always considerate, never concerned. Would you believe me? They would go, no. Their bullshit meter would go off and they would go, no. Their intuition would say, not always.
Absolutely.
And if I went to them and I said, you're always mean, you're never nice, you're always cruel, you're never kind, you're always negative, you're never positive, always wrathful, never peaceful, always stingy, never generous, always taking, never giving, always inconsiderate, never considered. Would you believe me? They go, no. No, because there's no way you can have certainty when you have bias. Absolutely. But if I said to them, sometimes you're nice, sometimes you're mean, sometimes you're kind, sometimes you're cruel, sometimes you're positive, sometimes you're negative, sometimes you're peaceful, sometimes you're wrathful, they go, yes.
Yes.
They would have certainty that they have both. We only have certainty in our business when we have an objective view, and we have the way we know we're objective, we have a confirmation. And the confirmation is that we're grateful because we're now fully aware. Amazing. We're inspired by it because we see both sides and we know what to do with it. We're prepared. Amazing. We have mitigated the risk with our strategic planning. We're inspired, we're enthused, we're certain, and we're present. The way the brain is set up, when you're living by the highest priorities and you're filling the day with the highest priority actions that inspire you and you don't attract low priority distractions that don't. You're too filled with priority.
True.
When you're in that state, the blood glucose and oxygen goes into the forebrain, activates an inspired vision, gives you strategic planning, which mitigate risks, and then you end up having a desire to act because it's spontaneous in that highest value, and you have governance over your amygdala and you don't react, and you calm down your emotions. And you're now more objective. If a person will just fill their day with the highest priority actions on a daily basis, they will do enormously more powerful business development than anything. You can't let distractions from the outside, which are impulsive or instinctual distractions of subjective bias information on the outside, interfere with your objective mission. So you need to be clear about your objective mission, your primary objective. Yeah. And then you need to stay with that. And if you're filling your day with high priority actions, you have gratitude for what you do. You'll love what you do. You'll see things on the way, not in the way. You won't see failure. You'll see feedback. You'll be certain about your actions. You'll implement them strategically and you'll get a result.
Amazing. So when you talk about high priorities, Doctor, would that also mean your highest values? When we talk about our highest values, would that be our highest priorities? So is there
They're identical.
They're identical.
They're identical.
Okay, so let's say somebody, I go ahead, I start up a business. Now this business I'm just doing to make money. I don't have any personal, I don't really enjoy doing it. I've done that, by the way, in the past, and I didn't enjoy doing it, so I had to leave that. But I am making money, right? Now that is important. So then how do we balance that? Do we just quit on that or?
No. Money without meaning leads to debauchery. But money with meaning leads to philanthropy.
Yes.
So you have two ways of dealing with it. You can ask, how specifically is doing this business and these actions that make great money, how specifically is it helping me fulfill what is highest on my value and make links neuroplastically in the brain so it now has meaning. So you're inspired to want to go to work, or you delegate something that's productive to somebody that has a high value and meaning on that production and become a serial entrepreneur and open up by letting somebody run that business and you get on with doing something that's deeply meaningful. Because I've not seen a business that can't make great money doing something meaningful. You can always find how to do it.
Yes.
I've helped thousands of people make meaningful businesses, inspiring businesses that make great money.
Yes.
So either go do what you
That's
love
important.
through delegating, or go love what you do through linking. These are the two mechanisms you want to master.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. This is wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm quite sure the viewers out there who are mostly aspiring entrepreneurs, established entrepreneurs, there are many of my friends who are successful serial entrepreneurs. And I have seen them going through this emotional, disharmony. There's a disbalance, and they cannot figure out what exactly to do. Probably they could go ahead and take this up. Maybe, if where their heart really belongs, and they could probably do something where they're really, really passionate about.
If you're not doing something you love every day, you're going to break down.
True.
When you can't wait to get up in the morning and be of service to people, people can't wait to get your service. They can tell if your heart's there. So if your heart is not into some component of your business, delegate it.
Delegate it.
I only research, write, travel, teach. I haven't driven a car in 32 years. I haven't done a checkbook. I don't do anything in my business except research, write, travel, teach. I've delegated everything else. I hire specialists to do that. I delegate everything. I haven't cooked. I don't do anything other than what inspires me. I hire specialists to do that for me so I can do what I love doing every day. Unless you're going to delegate, you're not going to live an inspired life.
Amazing, 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 amazing. Thank you so much.
When you're doing something high in your value, you're spontaneously inspired to do it. When you're doing something low in your value, you need extrinsic motivation to get you to do it. If you need any form of motivation to do what you're doing, you're not doing what's inspiring to you. You're not doing what's priority.
Absolutely.
I don't need to be reminded to do what I do every day. I don't need any gimmicks or extrinsic sources to do it in what I love doing, which is researching and teaching. I've been doing it 47, almost 48 years. I love doing it today as I did it when I was 17. It's finding that one thing that is absolutely most inspiring to you and delegating the rest so you can get up and do what you love to do every day. That's the way to live your life.
Amazing, Doctor. Thank you. And how do we go about finding that one thing? There's a lot of questions around that.
Your highest priority is revealed by what I call the value determinants. Mm-hmm. On my website, there's a value determination process. It's complimentary on drjohndemartini.com. And in there, it looks at how you fill your space. Because things that are really, really, really important to you, you keep around you in your space, your personal and intimate space. How do you spend your time? You find time, make time, spend time on things that are really valuable spontaneously. I'm looking for that. I'm looking at what it energizes you, because when you do something that's really high in your value, your energy goes up. Mm-hmm. If your energy is not up, somehow you're not on track. Mm-hmm. I look at where you spend your money. You find money, you make money, spend money, do everything you get money for what's really important to you. You'll get it. I would look at what is it you have order and organization around, because you tend to bring order to things that are valuable to. Where do you have spontaneous discipline where nobody has to remind you to do it? I look for what that is. I look at what you think about, visualize an internal dialogue with yourself about how you really want your life to be. That's actually showing evidence coming true. If there's no evidence, it's not really important, or you make it happen. Then I look at what you want to converse with other people about most. What do you keep wanting to bring the conversation to and to engage in? I look at what inspires you, that brings tears to your eyes. This is what I can't wait to do. Like Elon Musk when he went up in SpaceX the other day.
Yes.
And then I look at what are the most consistent goals that you persistently and just kept going on and you didn't stop on until you got it. What's the common thread to them? And then I look at what you can't wait to get up and read, study, learn about, and watch on videos. If I look and find the answers, the top 3 answers to those 13 questions, it will point me into what it is that's truly most objectively calling me into action. Then if I structure a business around that, that's where I'm going to have my niche and that's where I'm going to excel.
Amazing. So it's about how you feel about it. It's what makes you really wake up in the morning. It's what really drives you, what really fulfills you, what really brings that emotions that you really feel through it, right?
You can live your life by design, or you can live yourself by duty. If you conform to the world on the outside and envy other people and imitate other people and inject the values of other people, you're not going to live an inspired life to make the difference. You don't make a difference by conforming. You make a difference by standing out and being a trailblazing, unborrowed visionary. Mm-hmm. And that's only going to come when you're living authentically according to what your highest value is, because ontologically, that's your real identity. And if you stick to that and focus on that and do it in such a way that's philanthropic, that really serves people, you're unstoppable.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much for that. Thank you so much for sharing that. Right. So I love that part when you actually shared about being master of money, not a slave. So would you want to share a little bit about that subject? Because there are a lot of people who so I work on a lot of entrepreneurs, and I work on their mindset. So mindset about money and mindset about business. So what I believe is, I'm just going to share a little bit about my experience, Doctor, if that's okay with you. So I started working as a consultant with entrepreneurs, and I started working with startups. I saw that they got funding, they had the money. I saw they got the team of individuals working for them. They had great ideas. They had brilliant, ideas, team, production, everything in place. And yet, there wasn't an alignment. They weren't aligned, and they could not achieve their goals. They would get frustrated. They'd have all the negative emotions coming in, and somewhere that took a toll on their business. And that startup kind of shut down. They could not survive despite having the best of everything. So, how do we go ahead and deal with something like that? And that's about business. And also, let's talk about this. Then we're going to talk about the money, thing, Doctor. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like they had a great idea in their head, but it wasn't what people wanted to buy, apparently. So, you can put together a great business, but if there's no demand, you're out of business, because you're going to burn up cash too fast. Mm-hmm. Your cash burn is going to go way too fast. I'm a firm believer that you ask a question. Most people think, I'll borrow money, take a risk, gamble on some idea that I haven't proven. Mm-hmm. To me, that's foolish. Mm-hmm. I'd rather go and find out what the market needs. Try to get and ask myself, how do I get handsomely and beautifully paid to do every step of my business development? Mm-hmm. Pre-sell things to customers to make the growth, instead of gamble and take the risk and then gamble on the hope that it's going to meet people's needs. Mm-hmm. I'd rather prove that it's going to meet a need first and start from the back. That's how Henry Ford built his car. He went out and found out what people needed and worked backwards. Yes. If you find out what people need and work backwards, then you'll develop something is going to give you a sale. But you're making an assumption, and you can borrow money and you can get people and you can do this and get nice office and everything else. But if you don't have a need, there's no business. Mm-hmm. So you have to start from the customer first and work backwards and meet those needs. And make sure you really, really are meeting something that they want. Whenever I hit a seminar topic that people really want, it just floods in. Yes. If I don't, it doesn't sell easy. Yes. So you have to care enough about humanity. I made a statement at a church one time, speaking at this church, and they didn't like me. Probably after I said it. But I said, if you're poor, it's because you're not caring about humanity. Mm-hmm. Because if you care about humanity, you would find out what they need, and you would directly or indirectly get a way of supplying to them what they need. And you will either get a percentage of a brokerage deal, or you'd actually get innovation and create, but you then will have business, and there's no limit on income to somebody who has no limit on service. Amazing. So when a person does that, there's business. So business starts with the customer in mind, mm-hmm. and it also starts with what inspires you in your mind and where they overlap, as I said. Now, money automatically circulates through the economy from those who value it least to those who value it most. And most people, if I ask people by the thousands, how many of you want to be financially independent? Everybody puts their hand up. But when I ask them, if I gave you $10 million, what would you do with $10 million? They will spend it on consumables that depreciate in value. Absolutely. And that means that they really want the lifestyle, the rich and famous. They don't want wealth, financial wealth. So the person who really values wealth building is not going to put their money into something that depreciates. It's a consumable. Consumables are high-priced items that you pay for other people's brands instead of actually building your own brand. Absolutely. And wealth builders are people that buy assets. They buy assets. They buy things that go up in values, that put money in their pocket. And I started doing that at 27. And my life changed. Up until that point, I could make money and I could buy things. But at 27, I decided I would buy assets, because if I don't buy assets, I'll be working my whole life for money as a slave. If I buy assets, it'll start working for me and I become its master. So I started buying assets and kept buying assets and kept buying assets. Today, my money makes me money, makes me tons of money. but I do my work because I love to, not because I have to now. The purpose of financial independence is not for the fancy lifestyle. That's not what it's about. It's about making enough income to do something philanthropic and give you the option to work because you love to, not because you have to. And that way you can get up in the morning and do something meaningful and make a difference in the world without having to do it. That is a different position in life. And that's what the purpose of financial independence is for. Not for the fancy this and the fancy cars and stuff. That's not what it's about. It's about going out and doing something that's deeply meaningful that makes a difference, because the only thing that's fulfilling is not an immediate gratifying consumable. Those are transient fulfillments. It's making a difference out there in the world with something that's deeply meaningful to your life. That's why it's important to find what you love to do and find a way of doing it in such a way that it meets people's needs, so you can't wait to tap dance to work.
Beautiful. Wonderful. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Doctor. Amazing. So, right. So the other question which I have for you is how to become an inspired individual, which I know you've mastered this, and I really want to share, your insights. I want you to share your insights.
It's the same thing we've been saying. It's about identifying what's really, truly highest on your value and sticking with it.
That's about it.
I love teaching. I love learning. I read, I write every day, like clockwork. You don't have to motivate me to do it. I don't need any motivation for that. I do that every day, and I gather information that inspires me, that fills in the cosmic puzzle, and I can't wait to share that with people. So I do that every day. I'm doing seminars, webinars, podcasts, TV, radio, newspapers, magazines, consult, whatever it is to serve people every day. That's what I love doing. I love learning and sharing. So you have to be honest with what it is that you really love and what you're actually great at, because that's where you're going to excel. And you have to look at what it is that really makes a difference that serves people. So if I'm interested in something that nobody cares about, I'm not going to do well. But if I find where the world wants something and find my niche and find out what I love doing, there's an abundance of opportunity waiting for anybody who cares enough about humanity to find equitable. If we are exaggerating ourselves with narcissism and looking down on our customer, we won't meet their needs. If we minimize ourselves and exaggerate our customer, we won't sell for a profit. But if we have equanimity within ourselves, we're not proud or ashamed, and we have equity between ourselves and the customers, we have sustainable, fair exchange transactions. That's what builds momentum, incremental momentum to great outcomes in entrepreneurs.
That's brilliant. And I can actually connect with that, Doctor, because I remember while I was working in corporate, I had 8 years of experience. Like I worked 8 years in corporate. I could not get out of that. And after which I started building companies. I worked as consultant, and then I started my company. When I was doing that, even then I was there, but I wasn't totally in there. But the moment I said, okay, let me go ahead and do this. I'm going to go out and help people because I know whatever knowledge I've got, I want to share it with them. The moment I started doing that, my life changed, Doctor. Today, I do that. I travel the world. I do seminars. I do webinars. I meet amazing people like you. I meet influencers. And I share the work. And that's exactly what I do. I love learning, like you said, and I love researching. So I do that. I'm actually up all night, to be very honest with you. I just love researching because I don't get sleep, because I want to know so much. There's how much can we know? We don't know how much we know, end of the day.
Whatever we know, there's always what we don't know outside that's always bigger, so it keeps us on the search.
Absolutely.
We have to live with holy curiosity, as Albert Einstein said. But there's no end to the learning, and there's no end to the sharing. And keeping up with the population growth, we're almost at 8 billion. So there's no reason to ever have a lack of opportunity, nor a lack of business, nor a lack of income. Absolutely. It's about caring and sharing. And when you really care about somebody, you don't talk down or talk up. You don't put them on pedestals. You don't put them in the pits. You put them in your heart, and you go out of your way to make sure they win. And you do it with a win-win. And if you do, there's no stopping the business growth. Mm-hmm. So I'm a firm believer of caring enough to find out what people need, caring enough about yourself to find out what you're inspired by, and look at where they overlap. Amazing. I've helped thousands of people do it. I'm absolutely certain it's doable. People sometimes, they try to do it backwards. They try to project onto people with what they think the world needs, or sacrifice for other people and don't have fulfillment. They've got to find that equilibrium point. And that's not that hard to do. It's just a matter of taking the time to do it.
And Doctor, how do we actually make people understand that you do have your necessities, you do have your responsibilities, you got to make the money for that. but you got to live for something which is higher, beyond you, beyond what you're doing, beyond, to just go about there serving humanity, serve people, and also care for your people, care for your customers, especially in business.
Well, I always say that if you want to make a difference in yourself, you need a vision as big as your family. If you want to be number one in your family, you need a vision as big as your community. If you want to be number one in your community, you need to have a vision as big as your city. If you want to be number one in the city, you need a vision as big as your state. If you want to be number one in the state or province, you need to have a vision as big as your nation.
Amazing.
If you want to be number one in the nation, you need a vision as big as the world. And if you want to be a global visionary, you need an astronomical vision. The greater the cause, the greater your life. The greater the problems you solve, the greater the fulfillment you have.
Amazing.
The people who live by their highest values seek out problems in the world to solve. People who don't live by their highest values try to avoid problems and run into them.
Absolutely. And I've personally felt that, and my life has changed. And I'm actually on the journey to help people do that. And I'm quite sure this session is going to be so amazing. I mean, I am so happy to have met you. I am so elated to have you on the show so that we can share this to people and people start believing this. Because there's this difference, doctor. I see there's this little difference in them actually taking that step, which they cannot. No matter how much,
Every symptom in our body, in our intuition, in our physiology, in our sociology, our friends, every symptom that goes on in our business is a feedback to get us authentic.
Mm-hmm.
Every symptom in our business is a feedback to get us back to being in equanimity and equity with people. If we understand that no matter what's going on is trying to get us there, it'll speed up the process. When I was in practice many years ago, sometimes I'd have a big day and I'd think, well, I'm amazing. and I would go home and my spouse would nail me, just absolutely cut me down. And then I'd have another time when I'd have my day would be, wow, what a rough day. And then she'd lift me up. And what I first realized, she was trying to get me centered. So instead of having the world on the outside govern you, when you govern yourself from within, you don't have to be governed from without. So I started asking questions. If I had a really big day and I was a little elated and thought, wow, I'm amazing, and I got puffed up with pride, I asked, who did I forget the name of? What procedure did I overlook? What staff member did I not thank? And I humbled myself back down until I got a tear in the eye of gratitude for the idea of serving. And then if I had a low day, I asked, what did I accomplish? Who did I thank? And I learned to neutralize myself and govern myself and stabilize myself and get back into objectivity and to focus on my mission and not myself. Because the second I get focused on myself with pride or shame or get infatuated or resentful, I'm in my amygdala and I'm in my animal, and animals don't do well in the business.
Wow. Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, doctor. All right, so we've got a couple of audience's questions and I'd like to ask that. The first one comes from Manisha Jetwani, and she says that, which are the top 3 habits that you were consistent with and you think made all the difference in going out and getting it all? So what were your top 3 habits that you've inculcated in your life, which brought you and kept you consistent?
Very simple. Finding that priority that I was talking about, finding out what really is truly meaningful to you, find out who that niche is that you want to serve and find out what's the highest value that they want, and then go for equanimity and equity. Sustainable fair exchange. If you're not having sustainable fair exchange, there's no momentum building. So
Amazing.
Finding out what's priority to you, find out what's priority to the customers, and find out and target the idea of making sure you have fair exchange.
Amazing.
That's the only sustainable thing to build momentum.
Amazing. Are there any personal habits that you have in your life? Like any personal habits? We've heard a lot. So I've read, in fact, in the year 2016, I read about more than 100 books in a year because I was doing a research on leadership. So it so happened I read about more than 100 books on personal development, leadership, and what I remember you sharing that story, doctor, where you said that you went into positive thinking and you made words. And I just recalled my journey. So I started out, that time I was working with startups and I had my business running simultaneously. And I wanted to do these trainings out there. I wanted to build something on leadership. And I did this research. I did it with my partner. So we sat in there, we read over 100 books. We took all the words for leadership. What are the words? What are the vocabulary? What is that leaders, usually use? And we picked all of that. We got over like more than 2,000 plus words. And we actually made a program out of it. that experience actually taught me something. And I read about Robin Sharma's like 5 a.m., the 5 a.m. club. So is it important for individuals to actually wake up 5 a.m. and have that kind of a routine or habits? I mean, I did not understand that because I personally am up all night. And or maybe, I get 2 hours sleep and then I'm up again because my mind's continuously working. It never sleeps. It's like 24/7 up because I want to know so much, because I want to share that out to people. So it's like I sleep and I wake up and I sleep. So I don't have that kind of habit. So how do you want to talk? I really want to talk about that, and I couldn't find anybody else to ask this.
The habits that other people have with a different set of values may be not your habits.
Okay.
So you beware of subordinating to somebody else's habits that have a different set of values.
All right.
I don't follow always those same habits as well. I travel full time. My time zones are all over the place sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm doing a seminar at 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. Sometimes I'm doing it 2 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Yes.
I'm in all different time zones.
Yes.
So I can't say that, but one thing that I do for myself is I did something that Mary Kay Cosmetics, the lady from Mary Kay Ash, told me a long time ago, almost 40 years now. She said, write down the highest priority actions that you can think of each morning that would make the biggest difference and contribute to the fulfillment of your dreams the most, and serve the most people. And so I made a little index cards and I just filled out the 6 or 7 highest priority actions every morning. I kept them in boxes, and I went back after I accumulated hundreds of them, and I looked back at what was the highest priority of the highest priority, the one that repeated the most. And it came out research, write, travel, teach.
Wow.
So once I saw that the highest priorities of the highest priorities of the highest priorities, the 20%, the 20%, the 20%, once I did, I was already delegating most of it away, but I just cleaned out everything else, and I said, okay, that's it. I'm not going to waste my time on anything but what is most inspiring. And that is liberating, because now you get to do something you really love to do and not get bogged down in stuff that's uninspiring and say, no, that's not my job. That person takes care of it. Nope. As Warren Buffett says, he reads and he studies business and he studies financials, and that's what he loves doing. Yeah. He's not going to go to meetings. He's not going to do the other stuff unless it's something inspired by it. There's no reason why you can't create that, or at least work towards that. You may not start out that way, but there's no doubt in my mind you can work that way, because I have thousands of students that have done exactly that. And they liberate themselves and they make more income, serve more people, and have more fulfillment once they do.
That's definitely liberating to me, because I got my answer, and I used to literally be, okay, so there have been a lot of people telling me, why don't you go about, doing that? Go join the 5 a.m., wake up at 5 a.m., sleep at 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. I'm like, no, I have my calls. It's about 9 p.m. here. And, I'm up sometimes at 2 a.m. and I have a call with probably, somebody in US or somebody in any other country of the world. Then what do? So I don't have that kind of a routine. And I used to feel guilty about that.
You want to find your own routine.
I love that.
You want to develop your own routine. When I was in college, in professional school, I used to get up at 2. And I did some yoga for 30 minutes, and then I sped read 4 to 7 books, and then I ended up jogging, and then I came back and showered, and I went to school, and I went to clinic, and then I went home, and I taught from 7 to 10 p.m. At 10 p.m., I went to bed. I got up at 2. I did 4 hours sleep for 35 years.
Amazing.
I did that when I was in school. When I got into practice, my hours changed, and I made a new routine there. Yeah. Now that I'm traveling, I got all kind of different routines. But one thing that I do is I stick to priority. That's something you can do regardless of the hours.
Yes, I love that.
So if I can't do it through the hours, and you're not an early person, you like to do late, because I sometimes will stay up till 2 or 3, 4 in the morning. We're working. If I'm on a roll, I'm not going to stop. So, and I've had it where I've had just a few hours sleep too. But if you stick to priority, no matter what your time systems are, yes, there's an ideal microbiome, supercosmic nucleus, cellular cycle, 24-hour circadian rhythm things that helps your body. That's fine. But if you readjust it and adapt to it, your body tends to adapt, just like your microbiome adapts.
Brilliant.
But if you're moving all over the place in different things every week, that's probably going to get to you. But if you can develop your own habit, what you love, because I've read biographies of people that are late people, early people, there's all different types, and they've all done extraordinary things. So find what's true for you. You're not here to envy anybody or imitate anybody. You're here to express yourself as a leader and inspire people by your own exemplification of what's possible with your own routine.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much, Doctor. Thank you so much. That was an eye-opener for me. That was a breather for me. So thank you so much for that one. Right. So we are running short on time, and the time just flew. We got another 10 minutes. So let me quickly go ahead and ask you a couple of more questions. There's just last one, which I'm going to ask you, which will be, what's your story in finding your niche, which we kind of discussed about, and practices you made to overcome challenges and still go on strong? So are there any practices that you have in your life? I know you are fueled from within. You do what you love to.
The greatest question you can ask yourself, one of the greatest questions in life, is how is whatever I'm experiencing right now helping me fulfill my mission?
Wow.
How is whatever I'm experiencing now helping me fulfill mission? How is it on the way, not in the way? Because the first impression sometimes is, oh, that's an obstacle. But if you look, sometimes in your life, you've had these events that you first labeled terrible. And then a day, a week, a month, a year, or 5 years later, you went back and go, gosh, thank you that occurred. I'm so grateful that occurred now that I see the blessings. But why have the wisdom of the ages with the aging process when you can have the wisdom of the ages without the aging process? By looking now and how it's serving you. By asking. If you don't ask the question, you're not going to look. But if you ask the question, how specifically is what's happening right now that I first initially think is in the way, how is it on the way? And don't stop until you see it. And then your mind will creatively see and navigate through it into an opportunity, and you'll see that you can use it to your greatest advantage. There is no obstacles out there except what you have in your mind. You have control of your perception, decisions, and actions. Don't ever set a goal that's not a perception, decision, or action, because you have no control over it. Make sure that those goals are perceptions, decisions, and actions. And perceptions you can change. William James said that the greatest discovery of his generation is human beings can alter their lives by altering their perceptions and attitudes of mind. They can take anything that happens to them, and there's nothing the mortal body can experience that the mortal soul can't turn into thank you. So how specifically is whatever's happening to me, how is it on the way? How do I use it to my advantage? Then you have resilience, then you have adaptability, you don't have the stress, you see things on the way, and you come up with creative, ingenious ideas to innovate things, to solve it, and then you can pass that on to other people through exemplification, and you have more business because you just solved a problem that they would love to know how to solve.
Wow. Thank you so much for that bit. Amazing. So Doctor, one more thing, this was going in my mind, and I want to ask you. So what about, being a little, let's say, somebody is sensitive, emotional, right? And the people that you love, you truly love them. And what they do kind of affects you and impacts you. And it impacts you in a way which is not good, which kind of affects your work. It does affect your being and your individuality. So is there something that we can do at that moment? I know what I do. I would say that. I probably said I am angry at that moment. I let it out. But, after, I bounce back. So it doesn't take me time to bounce back. Then I focus on what exactly is my priority, like you said, and I do that. And I know this is what I focus on, the majors, not on the minors. So focusing on the majors, that's how I do it. But sometimes it takes a toll. So how do we go about manage something like that?
I'm gonna shatter something. It has nothing to do with what they do. It has nothing to do with what they do. It has everything to do with how you perceive what they do.
Absolutely.
And you have control over your perceptions. And your perceptions you can balance. So if you ask this question, if somebody does something and you ask what specific trait, action, or inaction do I perceive this individual displaying or demonstrating that I dislike most? Boom, identify it. Don't think it's nebulous, get specific. Then ask the question, go to a moment where and when I perceive myself displaying or demonstrating that same behavior. And if I go look, I will find I have that behavior too. Then I ask, where was it? When was it? Who did I do it to? And who perceived it? And I do it again and again and again until I see I've done it as much as them. That calms down some of the judgment. Then I ask, go to the moment, where and when I perceive them doing that. And in that moment, and from that moment till now, how has it served me? Because there is no drawback without benefit. If I choose to see it, it's my own doing. It has nothing to do with them. How is it serving me? How is it on the way? If I answer those three questions, there's nothing there except thank you for them because you just taught me about a part of me that I haven't loved and appreciated and integrated into my life yet.
That's profound, and that's amazing. And when we actually sit to self-analyzing, or probably, introspecting, thinking about what, it's not actually them, but it's us. That's amazing. It just opens up.
Peter Drucker said, we always want to blame people on the outside for how we feel.
Yes.
But the voice and the vision on the inside's got to be stronger than the opinions on the outside. And it's not what they do, it's our perception of what they do. We have to be accountable for our perceptions.
Amazing.
Because if all of a sudden we found out, let me give you an example.
Yeah.
Let's say your husband comes home and he's 2 hours late and he has perfume on his shoulder and on his thing and a kiss mark. And you immediately go, what? And you go, where have you been? And you start interrogating him, and he sits there and he doesn't know what to say.
Mm-hmm.
And you're all angry and everything because you made an assumption about what it was.
Absolutely. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Now, what happens if you found out that on the way home, he saw somebody get run over, and he went out there and tried to help him, and he got him to the hospital.
Yeah.
And he got him in the hospital, and he's late 2 hours, and you didn't even give him a chance to explain. And the lady in the hospital, the mother of the son that he rescued and saved the life of, thanked him and cried on his shoulder and gave him a kiss without realizing it, because you saved my son's life.
Amazing. Beautiful.
So it wasn't what you perceived, but once you find that out, you're all of a sudden you're really humble. Absolutely. So you can change your perception by changing your perception of what you see is there. So ask the question, how is what's going on? How is it helping you? And how is it on the way? Or you're going to let them on the outside extrinsically distract you from what your mission is. Nothing distracts a mission to a person who sees both sides.
Absolutely. It's actually all about the perceptions, doctor. And I've experimented that, and I've used that in my life, and it works wonders. And perception is something which can actually make or break anything in your life, be it your relationship, be it your business, be it your life, anything. So perception is amazing. Brilliant. So before I let you go, I would love you to share something to our viewers and people watching us, a message from your end, doctor.
You want to give yourself permission to do something extraordinary on planet Earth. The true you is extraordinary. And the magnificence of who you truly are is far greater than any fantasies you may impose on yourself by comparing yourself to others. Mm-hmm. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't put them on pedestals and pits. Compare your daily actions to your own high priorities, and then go out and serve others. If you do, the world is yours. The universe is yours. I've said it for years. The universe is my playground. The world is my home. Every country is a room in the house, and every city is a platform to share my heart and soul. We live in a magnificent universe. We're capable of doing magnificent things. Give yourself permission to be yourself, the magnificent you.
Beautiful. Thank you. This session, to be very honest with you, was like meditation to me and to my soul. It was so amazing. It was so profound. I really want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, doctor, to spend your valuable and precious time in the work that you're doing. I wish you all the best, and I wish you touch billions and billions of lives. And, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for doing this for all of us. And
thank you. You're help me fulfill my mission of helping reach more people. So thank you.
So we're doing this mutually. Thank you so much for that, doctor. And thank you so much, you guys. You guys have been wonderful. If you have any questions, let us know, and probably we can get back to you on that. Take care. Bye-bye.